Recording. Hopefully this works. I will post the recording actually into the calendar right here. So once we're done, so that you'll be able to go, what did we do on that day? So I'm going to put the recordings right in the calendar. All right. Okay. Hi, Tristan. Just in time. I just fixed something. What do you know? All right. So let's go over this. I'm not going to use VMware, but I'm going to go over some AutoCAD just to remind you how to do some of the things that you need to do. All right. And then we're going to start talking about the drawings themselves. So let's go into a drawing. Here I am. I'm going to start a new drawing. I need to do some setting up. Let me make it so I can see it. There, now you can see most of it, I hope. I've set up my toolbars down here. You set them up however you want. I don't want to see the little grid, so I'm going to turn it off down here at the bottom. Okay. I've got the background set as white. You guys remember you can go to the options. Option box comes up. Under display, you can make the theme light, and you can look at the colors and make the background white for a 2D model space. All right, so that's generally how I do it. I am now working in a 2D drafting and annotation space, because for most of the work that we'll do, that's all you're going to need. Okay, to make a donut. Oh, let's look at our units too. Right, I typed in units. I usually work, when I'm doing civil drafting work, in decimal feet. That's normally what I'm going to see. However, many of you might work in architectural inches. And that gives you this feet and inches thing that comes up. Okay, so you can work in either one. I'll leave this in decimal feet for right now. And then my angles, I'm going to use something called surveyor's units. Now, many places just use degrees, minutes, and seconds, but we try to get you to think in surveyor's units because it's the hardest. And that's like north 25 degrees to the east. That'd be start out going north-south and then turn 25 degrees to the east. So I've got my units set up. But I want to show you how to do a donut, because you need donuts on the edges of these things. So it's the donut command. And usually you'll have to look at the scale for what you're drawing. But usually my inside diameter is going to be like 0.5 feet or 0.25 feet. And the outside diameter is going to be maybe 0.75 or 1 foot. And then I can start going click, 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 click. And I got donuts all over the place. Where do you put a donut? On a plot plan, you put a donut wherever the property line changes direction. So that's where you put a donut, wherever the property line changes direction. So now let's make a property line. I think that's my next thing to do. Oh, layers. Well, I have to do that to make a property line. So let's take a look at some of the layers. Hopefully you've already got some of these figured out a little bit from prior work. I click the layers button, this came up. So if I'm going to make a property line, we usually call it C-property prop, civil property line. It's usually black, white, but we make it a different type. It's usually Phantom 2. Phantom 2. And then we have to pick it and say okay. So I'm going to make a property line, and I'm going to do, as best as I can remember, the DT100 site plan. So I think it goes like 63 feet this way. And then look, it's going to go from where I'm at. Remember the at symbol? From where I'm at, I think it's 115. I'm in decimal feet. I don't need the foot symbol. At an angle, I don't know if you can see that down there, but really look at an angle starting north, 3 degrees, what is it, 15 minutes to the west. So that means start out facing north and then go 3 degrees, 15 minutes to the west. And then I think it's 160 feet this way and 75 feet this way. And then it just closes off. Huh. Guys, remember that one? Something like, but it looks terrible. Ah! Let me put my donuts on, though. Donut. Oop. Donut. Too small. Right? That's a little too small. Let me make it 3 feet. That looks pretty good. I've got pretty much the first part of the thing done, but it looks terrible. Those don't look like property lines. Bummer. They don't look like property lines until I look it up. They're still not going to look like property lines because I did them on the wrong layer. How come you guys let me do them on the wrong layer? But they still look too small till I get over here. Remember, the way we've got our template set up is this is called a P space scale, paper space scale. And so it knows the scale factor of your viewport, and it rescales your line type scale so that it looks like scale factor 1 on your piece of paper. So in AutoCAD, you leave the scale looking crummy in your model. Leave it looking crummy in your model so that it looks good on your piece of paper. To change the scale in here, I double click inside so I'm on my model. And I go and set myself. I think, what was this one? Was it 1/8 equals a foot? Or was it 1/4 equals a foot? 1/4 equals a foot. I think in this case I want 1/8. Nope, 1/4. Where did it go? There we go. So now I've got that for myself. So that's just a little bit of a reminder. Donut commands, layers, property lines, using surveyor's units. And I picked ones that are pretty straightforward. This is the only one that's kind of difficult, and you might already have it drawn. So now, how do you put your property lines in? I'm going to suggest that you put them in paper. I'm going to suggest in AutoCAD that you put them in paper space. Nope, we're going to put them in a model space. So now let's make another one called C Topo. Oh, and let's remember phantom lines probably want to be, the C prop wants to be 0.028. And your topo lines don't want to be nearly as hard. And even 014 might be a little bit heavy. So I'm going to go down to 007 for my C topo. So now let me set myself for topo lines. And I know that this is 125, 125. So 25 starts about here. You can just look at the example. And I think in the example, there's a line that goes sort of like this. And then I don't know what they look like. I'm just gonna draw. You'll look at the. I'll give you a better demonstration of it when I'm ready to. So like a nearest. Why is my nearest not working? I don't know why my nearest isn't working right now.
There's a chat question.
There it is. No, my line weights are inches. And so you're just going to draw these things and get them in sort of where you can, sort of so they look like the drawing. Whatever the drawing looks like. And you'll just work on the drawing that I've given you, and you'll get a close estimate. How would you get more than a close estimate? You'd insert the image, scale it, and get it on here. So I'll check that for you. So how do you get your units right? Line weights. Remember that? Line weights, right click, settings. Oh, they're down here. They show up in the wrong spot. Change your line weight settings from millimeters to inches. So now I'm getting topo lines. How do I make it so I don't see the topo lines in this view? Double click. Bring down my layers. Freeze or thaw in current viewport. And then, of course, I probably need some text. We usually make our text red or blue. So for now, I'm going to make it blue. And that's usually 0.014. And I put text in paper space, DT. Middle center. You guys remember all that stuff? It's going to be either 1/8 or 3/32. 160 feet due west. Probably a little big on the 1/8, but that'll be okay. Left justify. What was this one? This is EL 120, something like that. So does that get you guys sort of going and kind of remind you of some of the stuff that you'll want to do? Topo lines, layouts. There we go. That's what I wanted to remind you of as we worked. That's one of the drawings. Not very well done, but that's one of the drawings you're going to do. So that's your little AutoCAD reminder and letting you know sort of like what my expectations are going to be. Let's do a plot preview. I'll do it to, I like to use the AutoCAD PDF or DWG to PDF. One of those. I'll do ANSI. Let's see how it looks on an ANSI full bleed. I'll do ACAD CTB layout. Let's see how it looks. There we go. It's not too bad. I might want to play with my line weights just a little bit as I go. But that's how it... Oh, what about this thing? Oh my gosh. What's going on with that? Should I see that? What layer should that be on? No print. There's just some stuff that we don't want to print. And you turn off the printer. You know? Now let's see how it looks. File, print. Let's see if it kept the last one. There we go. I got to put it on that layer. I made the layer and I forgot to put it on. There we go. Print. There we go. So that's the basics. I'm hoping that that is in whatever version you work with, whatever format, that you can quickly pop something like that out. And then we'll start looking at the standards. Sorry about the noise in the background. I'm not able to mute the garbage truck. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here's a little bit of tutorial work that you can look at. Surveyor's units and the donut command. I'll make these ones as we go. But here's a folder with all this stuff in it. So let's take a look at these and start talking about what's important in these drawings. And notice I've got it in DWF and PDF. And you can use whatever format you want. That's the DT102. Let's start with the DT100. So this is what you're going to make it look like. And you can sort of estimate these as you wish. Okay. But you're going to make, this is your first one. I've got over half of that one done already. Now this one's in Revit. You can do it in whatever you want. But we should be able to see property lines, text determining what the property line directions and bearings are, some sort of elevation marker wherever there's a change of direction, topo lines with a marker of what the topo line is, and a couple of interesting points. And this one is what's called your existing site. So it's a blank, empty site. So you want to reproduce that in some way. As you're working on it, this text height here should either be 1/8 or 3/16 high. Now, I'll tell you, Revit is backwards. They do things backwards. Let me see if I can get this to a point where I can look at it a little bit larger for you. I don't want to do, don't you hate it when all that stuff goes on? No, I don't want to do all that stuff. Sorry. Means I have to download it and show it. Okay. Now I can zoom in and zoom out and show you stuff. See how these Revit does it backwards. There's nothing you can do about it. That should be flipped 180 degrees. You should read right to left. Revit doesn't do that. You can't help it. Those letters should be 1/8 or 3/16 high. Okay? You can see that the property line itself is bold. You can see that the topo lines they're not popping out real hard. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to be a little bit light. Okay, so this is how you should make your drawing look. It's an existing site plan and it's pretty simple. Let's look at the next one. The next one is what your new construction is going to look like. Looks like, okay, and notice that there is a view title and a view scale, even if I only have one thing on the page. This is view number 1 on this page. Its title, the view title, is site existing. And in my case, in Revit, I did it 1 inch equals 20 feet. You can just make it look good on your page. Now, my next one, again, is view number 1 on this page. Okay, and it's my new construction.
There's a question.
Okay, what is backwards is this piece of text right here. 115 north 3 degrees, 15 minutes west. As I read that, I'd have to stand on the left-hand side of the page and look at it to read it. I want to stand on the right-hand side of the page and read it. But there's nothing that you can do about that in Revit. It will not let you do it. So I'm stuck. The tool is not perfect. So my next one is my new construction. I really should have put this olive drive up here too. Really should have been there. So as you do better, you'd put olive drive on this one too. Helps you locate where it's at. But you've noticed I've added some things that I'm saying where this foundation needs to be, and that I cannot put construction in this zone outside of my setback. And my setback is not a big bold line, but it's pretty obvious. And I've got some sort of text saying where it is. The setback is 30 feet. That means from the front, it's 30 feet. My side and rear setback is 10 feet. Now, I put those, if I were to do these in AutoCAD, I would put those in model space because they are they're offsets of something that is in the model. My text is all in paper space. And of course, in Revit, it's automatically that way. I've got some basic dimensions of the size of the pad, the elevation of the pad, what I'm calling the pad, and where the pad is located. So this front edge is parallel to the front, 50 feet away. This edge is parallel to the side, 40 feet away. And then I give my sizes. Another thing that's commonly done is to give some information about the property. And I don't know where to go to look at that. Let's see. Oh, too far. Gives the address, how many square feet, and the perimeter. These are your most basic land planning numbers that so many things are based on. So many building code rules are based on the square feet of the lot and the perimeter of the lot. You absolutely have to be accurate about those. Now, these are not super precise. They're to the nearest 5 square feet and 5 feet. A lot of places don't even go to the nearest 5. They would have made this to the nearest 10, which would have been 16,700. Okay, this is really important information. And then this is telling you that somewhere there's a section view that I'm going to have to look at. And it's going to show up on page C103. It's going to be view number 2 on page C103. Okay, so this is typical of what you see on a new construction. This is a right-of-way plan. Where will people, the public, be able to drive? Okay, so this is for putting in a small commercial building. Now, I'll tell you, that's a huge parking lot for that little building. But it's what's in DT 100, so I'm going to stay with it. We can go back and look at the specs and pick this thing apart to death. And if you'd like to, I encourage you to. Because that parking lot is huge. Unless that was like a 4-story little tower. Okay? But this is showing the right-of-way and how the right-of-way has regraded the topography. So this is the right-of-way. Here's the existing street. The public can transport themselves over this area. Asphalt parking. And they can go along the concrete walk and up the ramp. Okay? And I've got some basic dimensions. This is a flaw right here now that I'm looking at it. I need to move that. It's really bad to have dimension line going right through that. Shame on me. Okay, but things are located. They're sort of figured out. There's some basic dimensions. It gives you the right of way for this. But do you see the look of it? In all the now I've moved, just because there was so much going on here, by the way, I moved the elevation markers off of those points. Okay. And then I made a drainage plan. I didn't put all the elevations in because they didn't help me any, but it shows me where drainage has to happen as I've graded it, so that somebody can look at this and go, okay, it's going away from the building. That's good. I'm draining to the street and to the swale drainage port, and I'm draining to the swale. And not only that, I've got a picture of what the swale looks like. So I think I'm going to be doing okay. Now, the reason they want to have this in land planning is the drainage over here and the drainage over here is going to affect the neighbor. So they have to see if that can be handled within the plan, and whether I'm going to adversely affect the neighbor or not. Okay. And then since this is all going to the swale, somebody will make a calculation to see if my swale is large enough to handle this in whatever event size is called out in the planning documents. So if this area has to be able to handle a 1-inch rain event in 20 minutes or a 1/4-inch rain event, they'll calculate 1 inch of water draining into here in a 15-minute cycle, and will that swale fill up and keep it from directly going over the property or to the street for 15 minutes. That's how these calculations work. So this is a very typical drainage plan drawing. And then this would be a typical stormwater pollution prevention plan drawing. Sort of what's going on and how is somebody going to handle it. So I've got here a Caltrans BMP TC1 stabilized construction at the entrance and the exit. Well, if you don't know what that means, you can go look it up. What is a Caltrans BMP TC1? You would go to the Caltrans BMP spec and look up TC1 and learn all about what you would have to do that. Here's BMP SS2, preserved tree. And look, here's the actual spec itself. Here's a preserved swale. Okay, here's along this edge and this edge, we're saying straw bale to protect the stream property to the south. So that drainage might be an issue over here if there's a stream that I have to protect at the south of the property. And then finally, there's something called a utility plan. And notice how they're all based on the same property line, but I'm showing different stuff. And I'm showing it in slightly different ways. So here I'm showing electric, gas, cold water supply, sanitary drain, and data. And sometimes they put different line types for those with the little words. This would say E, 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 E all along it. And this would say gas, 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 gas. And this would say CWS, CWS. So you can get into it and make it more fancy, but I'm trying to keep this down at at a reasonable amount for you. Okay, I hope am I recording this? I am. What do you know? Good for me. I have this data on again on this one in particular because you have to reproduce. So Laura says, what do we want? You need to reproduce this drawing, this drawing, this drawing, this drawing, and these are called plans. So yes, so you will reproduce this plan using the software package that you are most interested in using in your professional life.
No, but what I mean is, do you want the detail in terms of the line types with the gas and all that type of detail, or good enough just like
right.
this?
So this is satisfactory and sufficient, and if it looks good standard like this, you get an A. Okay, I add some things in because I'm really, if you're a utility person, you'd be going, this is a little bit weak, right? But for land planning and survey, this is more than enough because it lets somebody know, hey, if you're digging in this area over here, land planning people and survey people, watch out. But the most important thing about this is that for land planning, these numbers right here, particularly the square feet, is how you size cold water connection, how you size sanitary drain, how you size the electrical. And we're actually going to do those calculations when we get into the land planning module. So I'm just getting, and that's a really good, so thank you for asking that question, Laura. These are at the level of a land planning first or second submittal document for a project. And what you're going to find is most submittals don't have all this. Many land planning commissions want little parts of this or some of it, or they don't really care because they know you. But we're putting together a complete sort of preliminary land planning approval doc that would get you into the design phase. Okay, so these are not really design documents. They're land planning documents that would get you into the design phase. Does that also help? But they got to look good, right? They got to look
super helpful. Very helpful.
Okay, and so this particular one is what goes in your portfolio. And then there are other ones to look at. So let's look at the other ones just really quickly. So here's one that you're familiar with. You've done this drawing already in DT302. So you can just reproduce your DT302 one, okay? If you did it in AutoCAD. I'll show you how to do it in Revit too. Okay, so there's an existing. Here we go again. This one's a cut and fill. Remember how I said this whole area is cut. You can tell because my existings are all little dashed lines. Actually, let me download this and make it bigger for you. So this is what's called a cut and fill. I'm grading this area flat to minimize cut and fill. Okay, I put a barrier, a retention wall over here to protect what's going on downstream. I'm going to do a little bit of a grade on it eventually. But see how these are all little dashed lines? Yeah, there are. You're absolutely right. But this is just showing that there's going to be some grading working to minimize the cut and fill. And you'll see right here that it says you need to do it per the architectural drawing. But this is the development area. And I'm protecting the rest of it with a retaining wall. And oh, there are some incredible land planning Nazis. They're really bad. Okay, so there's a cut and fill, but I want you to see what a cut and fill line looks like. Those were the existing contour lines before, and now I know that this is all flat, but there used to be lines like that. Setback. This is the area that can be developed. And it's saying the zoning for this is going to be an R10, residential 10. And I don't remember who I took this from. The county means, well, it's different. R10 can often mean it's 10 residences per acre, and some say 10 per site. So it depends on how those are per lot. So it depends on how those can be done. I don't remember where I got this one from, but this is obviously going to be a build out R10 zoning. They're going to put something pretty big on here, and they're going to put up to 10 family units on it, or at least 10 per acre. So this is like a super simple thing that lets the planning commission know. See this sort of undeveloped land? Oh boy, am I going to do work with it. Ha ha ha. Forget that thing. I'm going to build this out. But then, there's a protected stream. So they're going to say, I'm going to protect the stream. Here we go. I'm going to put a retaining wall in. My stream is going to be protected. And you know what they'll do is they'll call this stream vista. Because right now you can overlook the stream. But as soon as they've built it out, nobody can see the stream. That's how they name all these things. Whatever you ruin, they name it after. So that's how they're going to name this one. So there's another one that you can build out. And the last one is a mixed use project that you may or may not have used. I use this when I teach DT310. And again, you're just going to reproduce this in some fashion. It does not have to be perfect. But you can see there's a whole bunch of grading that's going on. Here's a big area that's being worked on. And I'm going to be developing this site, and here it is. So there's an upper site that I'm flattening and a lower site that I'm flattening. And it's got some areas, very important. And then I'm really calling it out. This upper area is going to be parking, boutique style, anchor building. That's like the one that's the Safeway or the Longs or the CVS. Shipping and receiving area. And then the cut and fill and what it's going to look like when it's done. So this is what you might give to the planning department so they get an idea of what your project is going to do to the land in this area, and will it meet the zoning requirements. So these are just examples that hopefully you'll want to work through. So there we go. Woo! I'm going to turn the recording off.